car's not been very economical, and I'm only getting about 46 to gallon, and it seems quite slow to pick up at low revs, so I'm not sure what's going on yet. As you can see, I'm only getting 46 to gallon, and that's driving really steady. I usually get about 65 to 70, and there's a distinct lack of power lower down the rev range when you put your foot down. When the engine eventually gets going, there's plenty of power at the top end, but not at the bottom. So I ran my scanner on it and it came up with a vacuum leak issue. So I'm thinking the intercooler pipe's leaking, or split or something. So I'll have to investigate that first. So I had a good look over the visible vacuum pipes around the back of the bulkhead. The intake pipe. The fitting going into the airbox. Onto the EGR, etc. Nothing obvious there. So I looked at the intercooler pipe at the top, and as far as I could reach with my hands, and found nothing. So the next stage is to get underneath the car and take the bumper off to have a look at where the intercooler is, on the right hand side behind the bumper. So I'll just whiz the bumper off, and it's that cold I've had to borrow my Uncle Bob's jumper. Here's the intercooler at the top with the map sensor or pressure sensor. That looks pretty good actually, it's not corroded at all, which I thought it might have been. There's the intercooler pipe, the lower one. And the top one comes in just there. Have a look underneath now. I've taken the under tray off, by the way. That all looks perfectly alright, dry. If it was leaking or split, you'd see oil. There is oil coming down from here, but that's because the rocker cover gasket's leaking. So I know about that. But you never know, it could be the turbo. If I go underneath the car, here's the pipe there, it's running up to the turbo. I've had my hands on it already, that's what the oil is, but it's not leaking at all. That seems alright to me. Here's the actuator vessel and vacuum attachment, and that's alright, it's dry, that's not leaking. The actuator controls the turbo vanes inside the turbo, which are open and closed depending on how fast you want to go, to put it bluntly, or controls turbo lag and improves throttle response, especially at low engine speeds, which is what I'm experiencing. Right, so I'm going to drain the lower pipe now. Just take the clip off with my plumber's pliers, find a receptacle, yank this pipe off and bend it down. See how much oil there's going to be in there. There is a bit, probably more than there should be, because I haven't used the car that much. And this end of the pipe's okay as well, going into the intercooler. So I'll fit that pipe back on now. So all the pipes seem okay to me. So I'm wondering if it's the actuator for the turbo that's got jammed or stuck or something, due to the turbo vanes being all choked up, because it's never been off since the car was new. And these do tend to have this problem. So I think I'm going to have a look at that. I think what I'm going to do is take the side of the turbo off, the exhaust side, and try and clean it. I've seen that done on a few videos, so I think I might have a go myself. I've already felt up at the actuator arm and I can hardly move it. So that's why I suspect this might be the problem. So to get to all this, I'll have to take this little cover off that protects the drive shaft. Just a couple of bolts here, 16mm. So here's the part of the turbo, the exhaust pipe that I need to take off. There's 3 bolts. The lower one closest to me is the easiest one to get to, and the other ones are quite hard to get to, but I should be able to do it with a 1/4 inch wrench, if not ring spanner. And I think these are 13mm. So these exhaust bolts are notorious for seizing up, so I'll spray them with plenty of penetrating fluid and then give them a good wire brushing and see if that makes any difference. If I can't get them off, I'll have to apply some heat. Right, here goes. As I said, 13mm. I did leave them to soak for a while with penetrating fluid. Ah yes, this is moving, as long as it's not twisting. Sometimes the studs come out instead of the nut, which isn't too bad. At least you get the whole thing out and you can attempt to clean it up afterwards, or even fit new studs. So I've got that one off nicely. Just another 2 to go. So the next one on top, I couldn't just quite get my 1/4 inch wrench on, but I got a ring spanner on it. This one was very tight, but I managed to move it a little bit. So when that happens, it's a good idea to move it backwards and forwards a little bit to free the nut up, and then take it off a little bit more, and then back again, and then more, and then back again, and keep repeating that until eventually the nut comes off. Unfortunately, it's not easy to film either, so I'm a bit limited to what footage I've got. So I got that one off, and then it was just the last one behind the back, and I could get a 1/4 inch wrench on that, and that came off quite easily actually, even though it was the furthest one away from me. Here's my wrench on the last bolt round the back, hardest one to get your hand round to, which was quite easy considering. Wasn't easy to get my camera up to actually. I eventually found a better angle with my camera. Here's me getting the nut off. So that's the last remaining nut coming off, and the exhaust pipe should be loose then. If it isn't, just bang it with your hand a bit and it should just knock loose. And then there's a little gasket in between the exhaust and the manifold on the turbo. You can see all the carbon just inside, so that's what I'm going to attempt to clean up, and it's not easy to get to. So this is what I'm proposing to use, some Mr. Muscle, and I found that, well, I found it on another video actually, where you can swap the nozzles from a WD-40 can onto the Mr. Muscle can, which actually works perfectly, because then you can spray it up directly without getting it all over the place, although it's going to be messy anyway. It is of course hazardous to do, so wear all your personal protective equipment, your glasses and your gloves. So you want to protect the drive shaft rubber and spray liberal quantities into the hole where the turbo is. I didn't actually get any footage of this, I just got this one photo, but at least it gives you the idea. If you feel inside, you'll feel the turbo vanes on a shaft that rotates, and that shouldn't be loose. If it is, your turbo's knackered. So I sprayed liberal quantities inside there and fiddled about with it, trying to get some carbon out, and at the same time pushed up and down on the actuator. You can access the actuator rod end from inside the engine bay. If you put something long and thin down, you can actually see it at the end. So that's what I did. As you can see here, I'm only moving it about 2 millimeters, maybe 3 at the most. And that didn't improve at all. So I'm a little bit disappointed with that. So all I can do now is put it all back together and see what happens. I don't think it's done anything at all myself. And it looks like my actuator's jammed up. So I'm going to have to take it all off, which is a bit of a big job. So I'll do that in another video. You might have more luck with it and be able to move the actuator. But I couldn't, even though I persisted for a good hour, spraying the oven cleaner and trying to actuate the actuator. So I got fed up in the end and put it all back together. So here's me on the road testing it, giving it some welly. It goes once the turbo's spooled up, but at low revs, just taking it easy, it doesn't seem to have any pull or torque. So in my case, it's been a lot of effort for no gain really, and I'll have to take a lot more off, which means the EGR off and the intake manifold off and the exhaust manifold off, just to get the turbo out. So I hope you enjoyed that video, and hopefully see you on the follow-up one to this, which should come after this one. But I need it sorting because I'm going to Spain, and I'm going to film that as like a road trip thing. I don't know how it'll go, but I hope you'll join me on that one. I've never done anything like that before, so it'd be interesting at least. So I'll bid you farewell. Like, share and subscribe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.